This is Brainy Podcasts with Saraya Shaw and Tracy Filler, inspiring creativity and innovation through evidenced neuroscience.
Joel, hi. It's so lovely that you could come and join Tracy and I. We're very, very excited about it. Today we have Joel Kern on, who's from the founder of Make Believe Worldwide, and he has a program called Class Act. And I'm going to let you explain what you do because it's so inspiring. But I just wanted to add that one of the reasons we were really so happy to have you on as one of our guests, as you know, we're all talking about creativity, innovation and critical thinking and how important it is for the future with AI and, you know, the way that people develop and that they grow, especially with the kids that you're actually working with. They are our future, without doubt. And one of the things that Tracy and I have a bit of a bugbear about is that in the UK, we're not giving creativity a lot of space. In Europe, they have something called PISA 2022, which is all about teaching kids about critical thinking. And we don't have it in the UK. So for the work that you're doing is so important for our future. It's awe-inspiring. So I am going to ask you, Joel, who are you?
Well, Saraya, Tracy, thank you so much for having me. I'm incredibly excited about this. And when you asked me, I feel genuinely privileged and honored that you've asked me to come on your show. So thank you very, very much for having me. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. We launched Make Believe in 2004, and Make Believe is a children's theatre school. And the aim of it was to launch a company that helped kids develop life skills through the joy of performance. So we began with 5 kids, and we now actually teach 5,500 children across 55 locations, which is
amazing.
Which we're incredibly proud of. And as I said, we've been going for 20 years. So we call it 20 years of make believing. So we began with 5 children, purely with foresight of helping kids develop life skills through the joy of performance. And whilst it was always amazing to get a kid a lead role in the West End or in a TV show, ultimately it was about that little boy or girl walking through our doors who wouldn't even say hello to you because they were so incredibly shy, to 6 months down the line, singing a solo in front of their mum and dad in the school hall, and just having the most amazing experience. And luckily they were, and we just kept growing. And as I said, we now teach in excess of 5,000 kids every week. And it's purely to help them develop those life skills, whether it's confidence, improving their communication skills, just giving them those skills as children that they can utilize as they travel into adulthood. And Obviously, we're having fun doing it at the same time.
Because that's also so important for resilience, isn't it? Because we know that their world is changing so fast with social media and just the whole connectability of it. So actually to have that resilience as well, and as you say, confidence, is just the fantastic life skills that they need.
Oh, completely. I mean, one of the number one reasons why we get a lot of parents bringing their children to Make Believe is because they want them to become a little bit more confident. You know, They feel that their kids are shy. A prime example is we get a lot of parents coming in where their children are, extremely clever. They're very academic, but because they lack the confidence, they won't put their hand up in class to answer the question. So therefore the teacher will never know if actually they know the answer to the question or not. One of the things that drama, singing and dance does do, it gives you that opportunity to stand up in front of people and perform. And even if you don't want to be an actor, singer or dancer when you're older, it's the skill sets that you learn through drama, singing and dance that would enable you to put your hand up in class and answer that question without having the fear that you might get it wrong. And if you do, then no problem. It's having that confidence to put your hand up in the first place. And that's something that, helps these kids that are perhaps a little bit more shy, that do know the answer to the question, to actually be at the forefront, and gives them the confidence to be able to do so.
You know what, Jill? It's not just kids without confidence. I think anybody has those moments where they want to ask and they're just a bit scared to. And if they can learn those skills at a young age, one of the modules I run is assertiveness and influence. And this is, grown-ups in the workplace made their way throughout the whole of education, and they still don't know to say, I'm stuck. Can you help me? And I think that this is the reason why we're frustrated that this eyesight on creativity, innovation and critical thinking is so important. And that's why we just love what you do. And we also joked that you're celebrating 20 years and you're still only 12. I would really like to just...
13, Tracy.
Are you 13 now? Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You started this from a very young age. And I think that in its own right is worth mentioning, and how inspirational that is. What made you want to get started, and what drew you to this? Because you are an inspiration.
Well, my journey started when I was actually at the age of 12. So I was a DJ. As we all do, I have a love for music. Every morning I play the radio. I absolutely love it. And as I said, I was DJ. My mum asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I asked her if I could have a Dex, basically. And she never had a clue what that was, to be fair to her. She does now. And she said, but that does sound very expensive. And I said, it's not. I found this one really reasonably priced one in the Argos catalogue. So she said, okay. Very luckily, she bought it for me. And I was literally DJing in my bedroom, and I thought I could go out and earn some money basically doing it. So I started doing parties for my friends, for their brothers and sisters. And then I started getting recognized, and people were asking me to do all these different kinds of events. And I ended up getting a gig at an Indian restaurant in Canary Wharf. And then from there, I ended up getting a residency at this restaurant. It gradually grew and grew and grew until I got to around 14. I had an ambition to produce a show purely to raise money for a charity called the Parry Charitable Foundation. And I'd saved up a bit of money through DJ. I invested £4,000 into this show. We raised £10,000. I took back the 4 and I gave 6 to the charity, so all the profits. And then by the time I'd hit 15, which was obviously a year later, I thought I could start a business and continue to do good for other people as well. And that's what inspired me to start Make Believe. And as I said, we began with 5 kids and we've just grown ever since. And yes.
It is just amazing that at that young age, you had the foresight to say, actually, I can do this. I can run a business and I can actually do some charitable work as well. So can I just ask, where do you think you get your confidence from? Where do your life skills come from?
I've been very lucky. I think definitely it starts with your parents. I was incredibly lucky. My mum, even though my dad was present very much, I lived at home with my mum. My parents are divorced. But my mum instilled such an immense amount of confidence in me. Like, Make Believe's focus and drive is that, and what we teach our kids is that nothing is unreachable. And that's what my mum instilled in me. Whatever I wanted to be, whatever I wanted to do, she gave me the full encouragement and the backing behind it. I even remember when I wanted to pursue Make Believe. So obviously I started it when I was doing my GCSEs at the age of 15, but I'd finished my GCSEs and I had the choice of going to do my A-levels and then pursuing more of an academic route, which I was never an academic. I wasn't an idiot, but I wasn't an academic, right? But I had to go to sixth form and then perhaps go to university. And I remember sitting down with both my parents and going, Mum, Dad, I want to pursue Make Believe, but I also want to do my A-levels at the same time, just in case anything happens. At least then I've got, something to come back. And my dad literally said, listen, Joel, if that's what you want to do, great. We're going to support you. You can run it. And if it doesn't work out, fine, and then you'll redirect. And my mum and my dad come to all my shows. They were at the gala dinner a few weeks ago where we celebrated 20 years of success. Whatever I've done, they've encouraged me. And that in itself has given me, I guess, the inner strength and the confidence that I've got the support behind me. Because if you do have support, and not everybody is lucky enough to have that support. If you do have that support, you are, that fills you with confidence because you feel like you've got a safety net there of people that genuinely care and love you. Having that privilege of having that foundation has enabled me to have that inner confidence to then move forward. And plus, again, we all make mistakes in everything that we do. But one of the things, again, that I've always learned is just do it. And if it doesn't work out, you learn from that and then you move on. And it is very cliche and a lot of people say it, but saying it and doing it is two different things. And you hear people say it, but actually, mistakes are fine. And that in itself builds you with confidence because if you don't make something, if something doesn't work and the next thing does, then great, So I definitely say what gave me that inner confidence in answering your question specifically is definitely my mum, 100%. 100%.
But can I just quickly add to that? Because as Tracy was saying, we do a lot of work with our clients around confidence and gravitas. And some people can see confidence as being very arrogant, and you have a self-belief in what you're doing. But I don't sense any arrogance. What advice would you say to people about being, I guess you do it with the kids, about how you're confident and you have self-belief, but you're not arrogant in it?
Yeah. Look, absolutely. Even yesterday, I'm not even joking. My mum phoned me up and I said something. She said, listen, my job is to keep you grounded. So it's literally, I didn't even think I said anything bad. She just said, look, keep, all the time, just keep yourself grounded, because you can. When you have success, it does. I mean, I remember at the age of 12, 13, I was earning the amount of money. I spent it as quick as I earned it because what else do you do as a 12-year-old kid, right? I mean, because that it does give you that confidence, but it is, and like I said, I've always tried to keep grounded. I would say at certain elements of my life, probably I've shown certain arrogance, as growing up. I think, as a 36-year-old guy, I don't know, you become, I don't know. I think people resonate more to you if you keep your feet on the ground. So I definitely, again, going back to my parents have definitely kept me grounded. And I'm immensely lucky that I've got wonderful friends around me, and they'll even make a joke if I become a little bit too big for my boots, for sure. So they'll definitely tell me.
And we always talk about the fact that in any organization, when we're looking at structure, when we're looking at the inbred culture, not what the marketing piece says, but how they actually live and breathe in the building, comes from the top. Yeah. So I'm just wondering how that filters into the culture that you've created across every single one of your locations, how that feeds as a consistency to the experience that every child gets wherever they have joined up the Class Act.
100%. I believe people buy people rather than products, right? I've always said that. That doesn't mean to say that, Make Believe isn't a recognizable brand now, especially within the M25, because it is. But at the end of the day, it's the people that drive Make Believe. And at the end of the day, a parent would bring their children to our school if they trust and have a good connection with the principal that's running that site. Equally, the children will want to keep coming back if they can resonate with the teacher and they feel comfortable in the class and safe. They're going to learn something. The way that we've structured our business is we franchised the business out just over a decade ago. So initially, it started off as a corporate structure where we built it up, and then we were running a multitude of sites. We expanded beyond that through franchising, where people have bought into the concept of what we do. The way that we've been able to grow the business is completely through collaboration, right? There are obviously decisions get made, but ultimately it's a collaborative process. Whether it's, okay, we've all got the same vision of where we want to get to, but how do we get there? And that's the fun process. And I think the creative world kind of does that, right? You could have, whether it's putting on a show, how will the script be conveyed? How will the script be written? Everything about what we've done, we work together. One of the things that I really don't like in the performing art world, and it does work for some, and that's absolutely fine, is a syllabus. I get it that in maths, 1 and 1 is 2, right? We could have a philosophical discussion about how you get to 2, but in drama, singing and dance, those lessons can be delivered in a whole multitude of different ways, right? So we don't have a syllabus, because who am I at head office to tell the principal in Hackney that little Johnny should be learning in this way? So we'll have a structure, but we leave the complete direction of how things should be delivered down to the local schools. So the idea is that they bring out their own experiences as teachers and pass that on to those children. So we bring out the individuality of everybody. And I think when you give people that ownership and when you give people that autonomy to deliver things how they feel is right, you get the best out of people. We're there to support, we're there to advise, we're there to guide, but ultimately we've hopefully fostered an approach that has encouraged creativity, free flowing of creativity, and everyone put their own ideas of how that lesson should be delivered and also how their businesses should be run. But we're there to support, and that's how we've always run things. And hopefully, if we continue to do that, then people feel empowered in what they're doing, and they'll hopefully keep doing a great job, which will most importantly impact positively on all of the children that attend Make Believe.
Brilliant. Because the thing that immediately jumps to my mind from a neuroscience perspective is actually how you're playing to the individual and their whole diversity. So actually, whether people, however people see themselves or other people, they're actually playing to their own strengths and being authentic. So you've got the whole neuroplasticity at work, developing, shaping the brain for how they're growing up. And that's just, that's so precious, the gift that you're giving them, that freedom to be like that and to think.
Yeah, but feeding off of what you've just said, we say something at Make Believe, that every kid has got a talent, right? And when you shine a light on that ability, great things will happen. And that's the whole point, whether you want to be a singer, whether you want to be a dancer, whether you want to be a teacher, a neuroscientist, a creative director, a writer, a producer, whatever it is, you come to Make Believe to learn those skills through the joy of performance. And, even with a doctor, right, you need to have bedside manner. The patient wants to feel loved and cared for, while they're being looked after. They don't want to just be hearing the science. They want to feel like person is a human being and they actually can get on their level. And I think, drama provides empathy. It provides an understanding.
I want to talk to you about your own learning, because we talked a lot about what others get from you and how they learn. But 20 years, we talk a lot about the power of reflection and how helpful that is for advancement and next steps and just your own feeding of your soul. At 20-year point, you must have looked back and thought, hopefully, wow, because you should, but also maybe there's a few curveballs that have come along that you weren't expecting, that you've overcome, that you've learnt from. Be interested to see what you've reflected on and what that's taught you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because, as I said, the one of the proudest moments was actually, there's been so many different moments across over the past 20 years that I could tell you about, and it fills me with immense joy. When I did the gala the other day and I did a welcome speech to everybody, I tried to talk about all of the different things that had been achieved by everybody across Make Believe. Was your question more about what I've learned over those?
Yeah, it's really about the power of reflection and what have you looked back on with pure joy, and maybe some areas that you thought that really taught me a lesson. That was good. That was good for the direction of the company, and that was good for me.
Yeah, well, definitely. There's been several pinnacle moments in the company. I think one of my recent proudest moments actually is having the opportunity to represent little Angelica as Matilda in the West End. When that show first came to town, it was my absolute dream to eventually get somebody in that show as the lead role, and we secured that just within the last 6 months, which is amazing. And Angelica has just had her contract renewed for another 6 months, which is absolutely amazing. She is the lead in the West End. So that for me was an unbelievable moment. Another moment was when we have a talent platform called One Dream, which is where we work with various different retail destinations, and we house auditions in the middle of a shopping centre so that kids have the opportunity to come and sing in the middle of the shopping centre for their chance to win a cash prize and hopefully you get represented by us on the agency. And the idea of cash prize, which could be anything up to £1,000, would then get them invested into their educational, vocational future. And we always fund this. It's not, it's something that we've always done. And we work with the shopping centre to deliver this. Several years ago, we did One Dream, and we had a little girl called Charis come forward, and she ended up sitting in the middle of a shopping centre. We ended up representing her, and then she ended up as one of the lead vocalists in School of Rock at the London Palladium, So it was a whole multitude of things like that. Probably one of my favourite stories that I tell of a student, and there are hundreds of kids like this, is little Jamie Little. He's a lovely boy. He was with Make Believe for maybe 5, 6, 7 years. He suffered with autism and dyspraxia and struggled with coordination because of dyspraxia and his autism. And he actually went to the old school, the secondary school that I went to as a kid, Kingston High School in Barkingside. And I remember his father, Richard, walking in with him. Unfortunately, he won't mind me saying this, he didn't have many friends at his school. People just didn't get him. And that was a real shame. They just didn't get him. And he was the loveliest kid you could ever imagine. Anyway, he came to Make Believe, fell in love with it. Absolutely had the most amazing time, did about 5 shows with us. He then ended up gaining a scholarship later on in life to Central School of Speech and Drama on the technical course. He then qualified as a stage manager. We were producing a show at the O2 in 2019, and his father, Richard, at the time, phoned me up, and he said, Joel, I want to first of all say to you, thank you so much. Jamie has just qualified as a stage manager from Central, and there is no way on this earth he would have done that if it hadn't have been for the direction that Make Believe would have given him, or the platform that Make Believe had to help him identify what it was that he wanted to do at the age that he is now. And he said, I just wondered if there would be any opportunity for him to work backstage with you, just to get some work experience at the O2. I said, Rich, I'll do one better than that. I said, he could be the assistant stage manager on the show. And he went, you're joking. I said, no, of course not. And then he actually assisted our stage manager in that show at the O2 for that was our 15th anniversary at the time. and I mean, it's amazing. It's full circle. Kid comes to make believe, Jamie comes to make believe, not knowing what he wanted to do, perhaps lacking some confidence because of the experiences that he'd had, to then realizing what it was that he wanted to do when he was older by winning a scholarship to one of the best technical courses in the country, qualifying. Now every show he works with me on stage. And it's just amazing. And so I would say it's the stories like that make me immensely proud. Yes, of course, we've got a number of kids that have gone on to become actors and singers, etc. in the industry, whether it's in the West End or TV or whatever. But really, it's those stories like Jamie that really move me and really make us all realize why we're doing what we're doing and the way that we're doing.
I mean, that really goes back to what you were saying about anybody can achieve anything. It's that belief, isn't it? That confidence, and people believing in you. So you believed in him, and there he is.
Yeah, exactly. The nothing is unreachable piece has really transformed the mindset of our kids. That from the second they walk in the door, nothing is unreachable. Whatever you want to be, that's absolutely fine. We'll help you in some kind of way to hopefully achieve it.
I know this is a bit of a side move. What's happened to your decks?
What's that? That's a really, it was only up until a few years ago. They were actually still in my mum's garage. So, you know what? When I started Make Believe, I did the occasional DJing job. And actually, it one, because I just loved it so much, I continued to do it. Because it was also a way for me to actually market Make Believe, and from Make Believe to market the DJing. Because I'd have, obviously, if it was a children's party, I'd have people coming to Make Believe, and that enabled me to get the word out there. And then Make Believe complemented what I was doing with my DJing, so it was great. But unfortunately, and it is something I think about quite regularly. I don't DJ anymore, but I'd love to eventually at some point do it again. That's for sure.
We always in our podcast, because it's about people believing in their own creativity, and you're very lucky you believe in creativity. A lot of people don't believe they're creative, and they don't know, they think it's some unattainable type of thing that they'll never be able to reach. And we all know that everybody's creative in their own way. It's just how you want to develop it. But we love to ask people who are leaders about how they actually lead. And because if the brain doesn't feel safe and secure, it's not going to be able to think or create or have any imagination whatsoever. So what do you do to create joy and laughter amongst everyone?
First of all, it's my whole job is creative. From the second I wake up in the morning, later on today, I'm going to be doing a script read for our next production, so everything I'm surrounded. What's one of my favorite things about, I'm not an actor, right? You would never catch me going on stage and trying to become someone else. I'm just not talented in that respect. And that's not a confidence. That is just a known fact for my own self, right? I'm constantly surrounded by creative people. And that's one of the most beautiful things about what we do at Make Believe is ideas come from everywhere. I remember a few years ago we were thinking about the idea for our next production, and it actually came from the head of finance, and it was amazing. And that's what we used to do. Everyone is involved in the whole creative process. So for me, it's like I said to you a moment ago, it's the collaboration of a group of people coming up with a series of different ideas that we're not afraid to just drive forward and do. So, and going back to your point that not everyone feels they're creative, or I'm in finance, I might not be creative. I'm good with numbers, but I'm not creative, or, whatever. And what I just said kind of proves the opposite to that. Everybody has a creative mindset if they allow themselves to have those ideas flow. And I also think when you work as a team, one of the things I miss immensely, much as hybrid working has been great, I think for the creative world, it's not always the easiest, because, I'm sitting here and an idea doesn't just happen at 2:00 in the afternoon when you set a Zoom call up. An idea could happen at 2:00 in the morning. I'm not saying that we were in the office at 2:00 in the morning. We were sometimes, but when we're all together, an idea can happen at any time of the day. So, I think working with people basically keeps me going in terms of me being creative and being surrounded by creative people who have got brilliant minds.
And you are right. And I know I said this before, that I can sit and look at a screen and go, right, come on, Tracy, get on and start designing this course or whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing. And I just sit, and sometimes it's just not happening for me. And then I'll pick up the phone to somebody or I'll have a conversation with somebody, might be disconnected to that actual problem.
Yeah.
And then it just flows. The ideas just happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, we make it an absolute point that every, once a month, all of us from wherever we are in the country as in the senior team all meet. So tomorrow we're all meeting in our office in Shoreditch. We've got, a couple of the guys who are in Manchester and Leeds, they're coming down, Luton and wherever they come from. We all just all got together and we talk about, what we're achieving as a team and what ideas we've got moving forwards, whatever happens, and then we just share it. We just have a whole day of brainstorming and, questions and answers. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic because it's so important. It's so important. And that's every department, finance, recruitment, we all meet. It doesn't matter who, what department we're in, we all get together. So yeah, I love that.
So what's the dream next? What's the next big dream?
I've got a number of different things in terms of the directions that we want to go. Well, the ultimate dream is to continue to spread the joy of performance through drama, singing and dance and inspiring kids that nothing is unreachable, right? That is ultimately what our purpose is. That's what we were born to do. That's why Make Believe began in the first place, to make performing arts accessible to as many young people as possible, and to inspire them through drama, singing and dance and experience the joy of performance. And as I said, inspire that nothing is unreachable. I think there's a few things that we're doing at the moment. Make Believe are consistently growing. We're opening more and more schools all the time. By the end of Jan, as I said, we'll have over 55 sites. We've got another 6 or 7 opening up in the next couple of months as well. But one of the other things that I've actually started to do, one of my passions actually, is transformation in children and transformation in business, funnily enough. So transformation in kids, how do we take a kid from being X to Y, from going from X to Y? How do we get them from shy, from being shy to shining? How do we get them from, whispering to shouting, to finding their voice with Make Believe? That's what we're, as I've said, keep walking in the door, won't even say hello to you because they're so incredibly shy, and then 6 months down the line singing a solo in front of everybody in the school hall. We will continuously do that wherever we go, and that is absolutely the focus of Make Believe. One of the other things that we've recently launched actually with I've got a business partner in this called Richard. We set up an organization called Make Believe, Make Happen. And it's a business where we partner up with a whole, with business owners that have got ideas that don't know necessarily how to, get it off the ground, or other organizations that are looking to grow their business, right? So one of the areas I specialize in specifically is obviously franchising. So the idea is that I'll help companies franchise their businesses. So we've recently worked with an organization who, she was a one-woman band, her name's Nasima. She started a company called Fruitima, and it was a fruit carving business. And she's now going to be franchising it all over the country. And we've helped to do that. So my later on in life, the way I'm thinking is hopefully I can pass on some of the stuff that I've learned through running Make Believe, whether it's be working with businesses in the extracurricular world, how they can continue to make a purpose in the same industry, whether it be through sport, creativity, performing arts, etc., or whether it be through other people that are running businesses that are extremely purposeful, that can have an impact on the community. So we're very selective with who we work with, but at the same token, it's enabling me to pass on my knowledge, or as limited as that is, to other people who hopefully will be able to carry their business forward and make it successful as well, using what we call anything. So that's what we're doing. So that's the future. So number one, continue driving Make Believe. I'll never ever stop that. I think it's got the next few years, we're going to be looking at doubling the size of the company. And the side hustle to some extent is just, using those skills that are hopefully transferable to help others to do the same, and in terms of their own aspirations and businesses.
I have no doubt that will all come to fruition. Absolutely incredible. We ask a question under leadership, but I think the one thing that you ooze is inspiration and high influence. And I can see everyone hanging on the coattails of that in your organization. And that is leadership at its absolute best. There's, I remember going to the Chartered Management Institute and going into their library, and there was like rows and rows of books on leadership. And then there was one spine that stood out, and it said followship.
Yeah, followship is brilliant.
That is what you describe in your story, is how many people have caught the Joel bug and just followed along and just having a great ride along with it. So, Soraya, in the past, I was going to put you on the spot a bit about what we can learn about Joe's brain. And
I asked that. Well, I'm actually going to talk about fellowship, because fellowship is the kind of leadership skill if you want, because if people are following you, that means they're safe, they're secure, they're inspired, they share the same vision. You're allowing them to be authentic and be the way that they are. So the brain feels it's firing on all cylinders, if you want. But one of the questions I'd like to ask you as well, which Tracy and I always ask, is what is your leadership secret?
My leadership secret, I'm not an authoritative figure. I don't know if I've given you the opposite impression there, but I'm not like some people. I think old school is like you're the man. You want to be seen as the manager, and I've just never been like that. I've just never been like that. Everything that we've tried to do, look, people by people, as I said, if people buy into you and they resonate with you, they're going to do everything in their power to be successful within their own right, within your organization. And I've always said to people, look, at the end of the day, as long as our values are aligned and we share those values about what our vision is for Make Believe and how we want to support the children that attend our schools, how we get there, we can have a battle over and disagree on. And that's great. It's positive as well. But as long as our values are aligned, then that's a good thing. So I think my leadership style is very collaborative. I thrive with working with people. I embrace ideas. And I would like to think that I'm one of the things that I've learned probably over the years that I perhaps didn't do when I was much younger was listen. I was a very impetuous young person. I would just make pretty quick decisions. And in many cases that paid off, but in other cases it always didn't. So I would say one of the things that I've learned over the years is definitely to listen a lot more. And the team is bigger now. So if you don't listen, I mean, it's just not going to work. You've had to listen to the team. You have to make a decision. Also being decisive as well. I'm quite decisive. It doesn't take me long to make a decision. I'll listen to everybody and then I'll just go with it. And instinct as well. You know, Richard, my business partner, will say, what's your gut? What's your gut today? Yeah. And I'll always go with my gut.
Well, we probably need to mention the vagus nerve there, because that's what's really going on there. Go on, Soraya, talk about the vagus.
Oh, your brain's connected to your vagus. The vagus nerve is the huge nerve system that runs throughout your whole body. That's part of the whole neuroscience piece. And the brain is always kind of listening to what the body has to say, which is where people get stress, for instance, wrong. Because you can have you know this more than anyone, you can have the flutters in your stomach. And some people go, oh my goodness, I'm stressed, this is terrible. And other people will go, oh my God, I'm so excited, this is amazing. Yeah. So it's how the brain, depending on your own experiences in life, reads what's happening in the body. And people don't listen to their gut. And the gut is your sum of your experience. It's sending back signals. That's what it's doing.
100%. I completely get that, because there's been many instances where I haven't listened to it as well. Like there's been times and I've always made the wrong decision. It's always been the wrong decision. It is just so now it's like whatever my gut is telling me at that moment is that's what I'm going with.
One of my common coaching questions when people are in that space and you can see the physiology change in somebody is, where are you feeling it? Because that's often very telling as well. Because we talk about the gut, but it could be somewhere else that's just, it's not sitting right. Maybe my breath's changed. Something's changed. It's a sign. Your body is talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, people always say, listen to your body. And it's true. Listen to your body so much. And I think that's definitely something that I've learned over years. I think starting Make Believe so young, I almost felt like I had to be an adult. I was like a 40-year-old in a 14-year-old body. And I can recognize that now. I've always grown into myself, as you do anyway, as you get older. But my head, if I was to draw a diagram of what I would be like, my head would probably be that big. And I don't mean in an arrogant or big-headed sense. I mean in like my brain was like, I was just overthinking it. And I would never listen to my emotions in terms of how I was feeling. Now, as you get older, I hope that it's gone the other way, right? And it's, you've got to learn to listen to your inner self, sure.
That is such an important point that you've just made. People think that we're actually logical and we're not, we're emotional. Everything that we think comes from our emotions. That's where it starts. Simple as that. So there's a beautiful synergy to it. We just listen.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful picture that you painted to explain that. I think there'll be a lot of people recognizing that, even people that didn't decide to start a business at 12. So
I do always think of that, even sometimes when I'm going, people don't think how they feel how they feel, if that makes sense, right? Whereas, do I think I feel like this? Well, you feel that. And that was what I was doing. I was thinking how I feel rather than just feeling how I feel. And I'm making sense.
It makes total sense. Joel, you have been absolutely amazing. We have covered quite a lot. I knew this would happen. We just let the wax lyrical from you just happen naturally. And I can't tell you what, Joel, I've smiled as if you're my own son, just watching the story unfold. And I think you've mentioned so many things that will resonate with so many listeners, both at a personal level around what motivates them, what drives them, what keeps them motivated, what keeps them achieving and wanting more, but also hopefully tapping into some aspirational views for their own life. And who knows, we might find plenty of parents with kids that just need you right now.
Yeah. Can I just add to build on that? The one thing that stands out for me is that telling people that you don't have to fear. You can be courageous. And so many people hold themselves back in their life because they're fearful. And it's one of the strongest emotions because it's a survival emotion. But actually, if you fear and embrace it, look what you can achieve.
100%.
Yeah.
What a wonderful way to finish this wonderful episode. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you so much, both of you, for having me. I've absolutely loved it.
It's been a joy. And all your details are on the website. Go to the website.
Enjoyed this episode? Listen to more at brainycasts.com.